Hey Jessica, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Actually, before we really get started, I was going to ask you, how's the weather your way? I saw one of your stories. It was like what, like 64 out there?
Yeah, well, the past 2 days it was 48 degrees. So, like,
Damn.
crisp 48, like with a wind chill. So, I'm in Las Vegas. So, it's crazy to have that kind of weather.
Yeah.
But today it's a lot. Today it's way warmer. Like, by mid afternoon, it's already getting warmer. But, man, first thing in the morning when my dogs want to go for a walk, I wasn't quite ready for that 48 degrees.
Well, thank God you're not living where I am. I mean, once it hits like October, you're getting maybe 10 Celsius and at best. So
Uh, I'm originally from Cleveland and I moved to Las Vegas, 2 years ago. So it's like I understand it very, very well. I
mhm.
understand the cold.
Of course, of course. Anyway, so I'll just jump right into it. I know that I know you're pretty busy with training and et cetera, et cetera. So I'll get right into it. So yeah, like it's nice to have a former flyweight title challenger on here, and I guess I gotta ask, like, what's a what's a feeling to walk to like make the walk down the cage and be able to say that you got a chance to fight for a title?
God, I feel like it's nice, but it's not anything to brag about. And I know that other people are gonna be like, that's something, to brag about, right? Like a
Mm,
fan or even a friend is gonna be like, just like some people will never get to make that walk.
mm,
But the athlete and the champion mindset, I guess, like in me is like, I want to win that world title. Like, I don't want to walk and be there for it. Like, I want to win it. So
mm.
I think that because of everything that happened and the way that the fight went down and just some of the health issues I've dealt with for the past year and a half, it's like, it's
Mhm.
kind of nice to be like, hey, like mulligan, do a mulligan.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess I could understand that. Yeah, I mean, nobody is expecting to fight for a title and lose, right? Um,
No.
Obviously, it didn't go the way you wanted to. But yeah, I mean, now that you got yourself a fight with Joanne Calderwood, who was actually supposed to fight for the title next, but obviously, I think she kind of put herself in a situation where she probably shouldn't have taken that fight because she was getting that title shot. So obviously, you're fighting her at UFC 257. So you both are pretty much veterans of the women's division. And so, how do you kind of see this fight going? Like, how do you perceive how this fight's going to go for you?
Man, like perception can change on a matter of a mood or a matter of a day.
Hmm.
So to tell you what I think, how do I perceive it outside of like it's definitely someone I want to fight. It's definitely a fight I'm interested in. It's definitely a fight I know that I can win.
Hmm.
And it's definitely a fight that I think that the fans are gonna like. It's definitely something that kind of has some history behind it. Me and JoJo have always kind of just chirped at each other, um, in a professional, respectful, but also a digging manner. So I think it'll be fun for everybody. It'll be fun for me too. It'll be a good way to get back on track and get me back in title contention and just back in a good, healthy mindset, right? Like, dealt with a lot of health issues over the past year and a half, and none of them were remotely related to each other. But then to kind of be where I'm at right now, it's pretty exciting to be back in the octagon that way.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, talking about octagons here, before I get the next one, so it looks pretty like quiet there. Are you training just for yourself, or like what's going on?
So, well, I just finished up with yoga. So we just finished up. Me and a couple of my friends just finished. But no, this is actually my personal garage gym.
Oh,
So I have an octagon in my full garage. With COVID and everything happening, I just didn't know what was going to happen after I fought Cynthia and I lost, and I wasn't quite ready. It made you kind of like made me reprioritize like how I spend my money, and also how I keep myself in a position to always succeed. When the gyms were closing, there wasn't as much accessibility, so I'm really, really close with Zebra Mats. So I reached out to them, asked to buy all my mats and my cage walls. And yeah, so we're just ready to do a camp fully however I need to at my leisure for
mm,
myself. So, and the gym's just opened back up here in Las Vegas again, Syndicate and well as the UFC PI and Extreme were closed for a little bit just because of outbreak of COVID. So
Yeah, that would be really tough. And I know a lot of fighters I've talked to, they had a bit of trouble with that. I mean, of course, like the UFC, they start putting on events again, started back in Jacksonville, but like they were saying, like we can't train anywhere. Like we can't. The gyms won't open because of the COVID. So I think a lot of fighters are having that issue. So it's nice that you can kind of have your own gym going on there. So when you talked about the mats, I could see. So is it like a roll-up mat, or did you actually have to like plan them together? Or
No, this is like what you would see if you walked into any UFC gym, any big MMA gym. These are all individual mats, as well as we have carpet padding underneath.
mm,
All these walls are completely
nice?
bolted into the ground. And we have 5 cage walls and then 1 padded wall. So we have a 6-sided octagon, which most people fight in their amateur years. So it's quite nice to have that. So yeah, all these mats are individually laid down with their own set. So
Yeah, 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 and it's nice that you have that. I wish that I do like I do like MMA training on the side. It's just for lifestyle, but the mats that we have, they're actually like put together, so there's little slits in between. And I wish we
mm.
had like the roll up one because I've my coach and I we have pulled our toes back so many times just getting caught when we're rolling or and it's just like it's just one of those annoying things that has to happen like
Mm.
of me, I'm like, hey, hold on, and I'll like put my toe back in place and that way. But yeah, what can you do, right? But yeah, going back to the fight with Joanne Calderwood, so she has that Muay Thai and kind of kickboxing background, kind of similar to Valentina's. So, like, what is it? I would never ask a fighter to, uh, I guess, ruin or spoil their plans. But what is it that you and your team are doing to prepare for her style?
So we're again not doing anything particularly to prepare for her style. Obviously, it's good to be aware of the things that she's good at,
Hmm.
right? But I think that one of the best things as a fighter, and we've seen some of the most successful people, is imposing their will and imposing their fight style on the others. So I really want to be good wherever the fight goes. I want to have a good understanding of where her mindset will be at for the person she likes to be. So understanding that Muay Thai, that kickboxing
Hmm.
mindset will allow me to be a better me. And that's again showcasing my striking, my kickboxing, as well as my wrestling and my Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So I think that again, I always like to be able to plug and play. Like fighting happens fast. Like I don't want to have a game plan and then all of a sudden when the fight goes one way, I'm not ready for it. So I think we actually saw that in our last fight. She had a particular game plan in her head. And when the fight got to the ground, she wasn't ready for it. She wasn't ready for some of the things that
Hmm.
were going her way. But I foresee, because just like everybody does, when you lose a certain way, you're gonna come out and you gotta work on it. So I'm sure she's gonna be grappling. I'm sure she's gonna be wrestling. I'm sure it's all gonna be fresh in her head. So um I guess the best message is to be good wherever the fight goes because it might faint that wrestling to come up with some strikes. So be good everywhere the fight goes.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, you're not coming to lose, right? So,
No.
so I guess like with this fight coming up, you know, during I guess we would call it the COVID era of the UFC and all the cards. When you're in that last couple weeks of cutting weight and really preparing and getting flying over to where you're fighting, do you ever have that kind of worry in your mind that your opponent's going to test positive, or does that ever kind of go through your head, and does that have an impact on when you're cutting weight and your mindset on that?
I mean, you're asking me all hypothetical situations because I took a 2-week notice fight here in Las Vegas.
Right.
So 2-week notice for me and Cynthia, like I was 30 pounds overweight, dealing with my gallbladder going bad, finding out that I'm allergic to foods my entire life that I never knew I was allergic to. And there was a lot going into that. So I already knew that the both of us were going to make it that way. But then even, moving forward, me and Jojo are going to be fighting more than likely in Las Vegas.
Mm.
And if it's not going to be international. I'd be willing to bet that it's not going to be an international card with Connor and potentially Gaethje or Dustin.
Yeah.
So that like I know how that's going to go. That's going to be a U.S. card. And we're both at Las Vegas. Me and her both see each other at the PI all the time. She was like, we both got kicked out of the PI because other people were exposed. We were around other people that were exposed to it. So again, like, I feel like she's dealing with a lot of the same things I am.
Right.
Um,
Kind of.
I'd like to think that I believe she had COVID already, and if I'm understanding correctly, you build up to antibodies. I have not tested positive for COVID. I don't know the stipulations. I keep hearing, like, certain people don't get it, certain people may have already had it. I've not tested positive for it. I have dealt with other health issues more in the past 5 months, so that's honestly not been my biggest worry, as crazy it is. And I know it's been for everybody else. Like, they're like, oh man, COVID, COVID, COVID. What happens if I get it? Honestly, I was just fighting for my overall health after getting my gallbladder removed and
Mm.
stuff. So I haven't even had a chance to think about that. I don't foresee her getting COVID, and I don't foresee myself getting COVID. So it's kind of just like out of sight, out of mind. I can't control what happens to other people.
Right. I mean, you only can control of your own life, I guess. Like you only can control things that you can truly control. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, so I guess you got that covered. So I guess I asked this question for fighters so many times, and I know I would never ask fighters to overlook other opponents, but I mean, like say you win against Joanne. Like where are you looking at the rank? Like where are you looking at the rankings? Do you want a girl like the top 5, or are you trying to get anybody that can get you up to the top the quickest? Or
So here's the best way I can look at it is like I in this division, as well as even when I was at bantamweight, I fought the best of the best.
mm,
I suffered my first knockout, or getting knocked out
mhm.
in the UFC against the world, against a girl who's had the world title for a while and is actually very, very good. And I still think that I can beat her. I know that I can. I know when I'm healthy, I can beat all of them. And I finally feel like the way that things are going, I'm putting myself in a better position to get there. So whoever I have to fight to get myself back to my chance at fighting for the world title, I'm going to do it. And if that means I have to get through a couple other girls I haven't fought, I'll do it. If I have to refight someone, I'll do it. Like, I mean, I don't get to write that part of my story. I just have to be a part of whatever it is, answer the calls when they come through, say yes to the fights that I'm offered, and capitalize on the opportunities I'm given. That's kind of all that I can do.
Well, and the reason why I ask as well is because there's so much movement in that division. I mean, I know that Cynthia, she made a really big jump in the rankings.
Yeah, because of me, because of she beating me on a 2 week notice. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't, like, let's be honest. Like, if we look at just ranking in that way, but if we look at ranking in that way, then are we really giving people, are they really the greatest? Are they really that good? You beat me on a 2 week notice. And I mean, let's face it, nobody in that fight looked at their best. So do we look at it as ranking wise, or we look at who's actually earned the fight?
Yeah, and I guess that's another issue that I think, and not just the fighters, but I mean fans. Like I see this shit so much. Like when they put fights together, and someone says, "Oh, they don't deserve to get that fight," and whatnot.
But who's to say we do, who deserves what, right? We
I'm,
don't make the matches, but I'm just saying, like, in a broader mindset, the way that people should start interpreting things better
mm,
is we don't ever have any say so. We don't say so even what ranking we are. Like, Jessica Andrade is now the number one because she beat Caitlyn. And that would, and let me tell you something, that was supposed to be my fight. I was originally supposed to have that. They offered me that fight months ago before we found out it was my gallbladder. So again, like, they're looking to just put fights together, and that's what people have to remember, that we're looking to entertain fans, put on good fights.
mm.
That I don't see a whole lot of rankings being thrown into here. And the more that we just keep putting fights together, like Lauren Murphy fought a nobody last week, like, that does nothing for her. She shouldn't even have fought that fight. And again, that just screws up the entire division again. So it really now just gonna be like, have these two people fought each other? No. Okay, let's have them fight. And then has Valentina beat this girl up? No. Okay, she can fight her. So, like, we're doing that to ourselves right now.
Yeah, and I guess yeah, and like you said, yeah, you don't have control. I mean, the offer you fight, you take it or you don't take it. And I guess and looking at Jessica Andrade, I mean, as much as yeah, she beat, I think, yeah, it was like the number 1 contender, so she got in the number 1 spot. I don't necessarily believe that she should just be able to get the next title shot. I don't feel like that should work that way. I understand. I mean, the UFC, they can do whatever they want, but if they really want to be fair to the fighters who have worked their way up and work their way up to a title shot, I think that they need to be a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things is that by being an athlete in this sport, as long as I have, we know that fairness isn't the way that they do things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about being fair. It's just the way that it is, and we have to be ready for it no matter what. So that's why I never say no to a fight. If my eyes are blinking and my fist can clench, I'm gonna take a fight. So
Mm,
um, I think that's kind of how all of us girls are right now in the division.
absolutely. And I know that you've spoke on your health quite a few times now. So are you are you fully healthy? Is everything good? I mean, are you like ready to rock and roll?
Yes. Well, yeah, I wouldn't be taking a fight considering what I went through after this last one. I don't want to miss weight twice. And that was my body's way of telling me that something was going on and I wasn't listening.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously after the Cynthia fight, it got my health progressively got worse and just kept trying to act like it wasn't happening. But come to find out, I'm extremely allergic to dairy and eggs, but it wasn't even so much that I don't drink milk. I don't eat regular cheese, but so much of the fact that my body can't even handle it at all. Like I can't have milk chocolate. I can't have certain baked goods now because of that. But then on top of it, my gallbladder, we came to find out that my gallbladder had been only at 9% function.
Oh,
So basically my gallbladder was completely dead. And basically you can't like your gallbladder diet is controls your digestion. It's one of your filtering systems in your body. Um, so we went through with the UFC in August. We were finally able to get it out. But then after getting it removed, a couple days after I got it removed, I ended up contracting staph inside my stomach and in the incision, and then causing some other gut problems. But then finding out, or then going through the process of finding out if we had Crohn's or colitis or possible of a type of colon cancer. And we finally able I went back to Cleveland. I went back to the Cleveland Clinic to get a second opinion from them. And then come to find out I am allergic to a lot of foods, way more than what I really even knew that I was allergic to. And the fact that I was able to make it till 34 eating those foods, like eggs. I'm allergic to eggs. I'm completely allergic to gluten. Like where you always hear people be like, oh, I'm allergic to gluten. Like I'm legitimately allergic to gluten. I'm allergic to so many levels of protein that we've been challenging the nutrition at the PI to help me find the right stuff. But we end up coming down that I have irritable bowel syndrome, which is totally a real thing. And I thought I was just like, that's just bubble guts. Like I've been told that before, but to find out that it actually is a real thing and that certain foods that you eat make it worse. And a lot of foods that we were using to cut in the Cynthia fight, as well as all my other fights, asparagus, cauliflower,
mm-hmm.
some of these vegetables that you think are so great for you if you have irritable bowel syndrome. It's called a highly fermentable food. There's a certain diet called a FODMAP diet. Basically, people who have IBS as well as losing their gallbladder can't digest food. So basically, foods would just ferment in my stomach and give me like a brain fog. So it's almost making me drunk at times. Like I would have mass sets of confusion, lots of anger spells because I couldn't understand what was going on. But again, it goes back to if you're not digesting food properly, basically it just ferments and stays in your gut and makes you sick and poisons you over time. So it's been now we've been dealing with that since August. We're at the end of October. We're nearing the end of it. I'm not having these crazy bathroom spells because it was embarrassing. And I didn't want to talk about it for so long that like I didn't even tell my friends or my family or like anybody until it finally had gotten so bad that I was going to the bathroom 30 times a day.
That,
Yeah, so it was really kind of traumatizing in that way.
mm-hmm.
But it's allowed me to change my whole perception on food as well as life and understanding how the mind and the gut work together.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that all these great foods can do those things to you if you have some kind of condition. I mean,
Yeah, the good stuff, broccolis, cauliflowers, asparagus. I was eating asparagus all the time, grapefruits. You know what I mean? Like it's foods that you would never even think. And I challenge anybody to look at, what it means and truly understands it. The difference.
yeah, like I know for myself, when my coach had me on, he had me on I think one of these diets, and he said any kind of greens, X amount. I want you to eat this X amount of greens. I was like, oh, great, broccoli, and obviously I don't have any condition that affects with food per se, but I mean broccoli for me, it would just make me gassy, which is, I think it is kind of like that's typical normal thing that people do experience sometimes. But for me, like it would be so bad and I get like stomach cramps and stuff like that. So I had to totally switch over. And I thought, whoever thought that, a super green food like broccoli or, like would do that.
Well, it's crazy. It's crazy because, like, I challenge people to really understand what, again, food means. So,
Mm.
broccoli, because of the way broccoli grows and it being in nature, basically, if a broccoli, when you eat it, it releases a microchemical that is not good for our body. And if it's not good for your specific body, it will cause gas, bloating, sickness. But again, because the broccoli's natural defense mechanism causes this chain of reaction. And if your body can't handle that type of, and again, broccoli is a carbohydrate, which is a FODMAP food, has a certain level, then it can cause a reaction to your gut. Okay? And anybody, you don't even have to have a problem, but that might be specifically to you. Like if you took a food sensitivity test, it might tell you on there, like, hey, you probably shouldn't eat broccoli. You have a moderate allergy to it. So again, going back to understanding when people eat food, like we really should challenge ourselves of understanding like what food is actually doing to us and whether or not it works to our body.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, fuck yeah. Um, yeah, and yeah, so yeah, just kind of moving forward here. I know because we're coming up on time. There's a kind of a time limit on this thing. Yeah, so I guess like during fight week, how do you kind of approach media? Do you is it all voluntarily? Like, do you have a say in it, or how does that all work out?
Yes and no. There's a schedule that the UFC gives us, and then there's some other stuff that like comes through our management. But I mean, it is what it is. It's a part of the job. You know what I mean? Like it's a part of the job requirement. I just kind of look at it. Is what it is. I'm myself no matter what, and I speak truthfully, so I don't. It doesn't really stress me out.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there's always a way around it.
Well, and the reason why I ask is because I notice that some fighters, they look really uncomfortable when they talk, like they get really nervous or they get really they just don't look comfortable talking in front of a camera. Or like during fight, like I know like Diaz brothers are not a huge fan of media and stuff. Like they're very like they always look down or they just can't look at the camera.
Right.
Um,
I
so
think that's based upon your personality. We're all different, right?
absolutely, and I guess it is just part of the job, like you said. Um, but yeah, I mean, I
A lot of fighters do not get in the fighting industry because they're super personable people.
I mean, unless if you're Connor and you can, chat on.
Connor didn't get into fighting because he was good at talking on camera. He did it because he was good at fighting, and then he got good at talking in front of the camera.
Well,
You know what I mean? Like he didn't go like, "Hey, I can talk in front of the camera." Well, I should probably be a professional fighter. You know what I mean? Like nobody does that first in the sport. They choose fighting and then realize that you have to be good at all of the other things if you want to be the most successful.
hmm I just wanted. We were just discussing this earlier. You bringing up the whole idea with Connor and Gaethje and a couple of those guys that are now. I think that lightweight division is going to pretty much like that title is going to be up for grabs as long as Khabib does drop that title and fully retires. Do you like where do you kind of see that? I mean, I had the discussion with my dad and he's like, "Well, how's this all going to work out?" So, what's your thoughts? Like, who do you think truly should go for that fight for that title?
I mean, I think Gaethje deserves the chance to. He's technically the interim champ still. You know what I mean? Like, right? Isn't he? Or how's that work?
I th-
Right? Isn't he?
yeah. Well, I mean,
So
so
I mean, but then he let go of the title, so now the title's up for grabs, or still go back. So I think that by nature, it should be Gaethje to get the next chance, and keeping Ferguson and all those guys. No, do I think Connor should just come off the bench and get some high level fights? No.
No.
But again, we go back to it's not. We don't. This sport isn't about fair. We're talking about what sells, what does the right thing, and what the fights the fans want to see. So again, it's right now, considering this COVID time, we've seen it with sports, like things are being shortened, football, like everything's kind of, it's up in the air, but at least we're getting to be entertained. So I don't know that we're sitting in the most genuine time, like would the Dodgers have really won the World Series had there been a full year, you know what I mean? So it's like, let's like try to let people have their winnings and earn and have it the way it is, but it's not to put too much on to like, hey, this person earned it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just going back to, I mean, like looking even when they try to get Angela Hill they try to get her to fight Michelle Watterson, and like that was a big jump there as well. So I think when they make those fights, they're trying to see if this person can beat this person, then she can get to here and get to there. Like I think they do watch certain players and how they progress and how they get to that gold. So going with Jessica Andrade, I think maybe her plan was to move up anyway to flyweight, and then they just
they just wanted to be busy. They just wanted to be busy, and I know that because I was offered that fight. They just wanted to stay busy.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I just want to. I know we're kind of coming up on time here, so I do appreciate you for taking your time to come on my podcast. You've been nothing but a pleasure having on here.
Thank you.
Good luck with your fight with Joanne Calderwood at UFC 257, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.